I know Butch has challenged you to produce photos, but really, if someone's from the neighborhood, it just comes out in the way they talk. And
Right.
people from the neighborhood, they know.
Building Community is an award-winning video series created by the Chester Housing Authority to stay in better touch with its residents, staff, and the general public during these times of social isolation. Thank you for tuning in as Executive Director Steve Fischer and Ulysses Butch Slaughter bring interesting guests to discuss important topics of the day.
So you now run the agency in which you grew up. That probably puts you in a very unique category of housing authority executive directors across the country. Uh, do people that you manage today, meaning the communities of the housing authority, do they know that about you, or is that just something you keep inside of you? How does that go? Because that's an unusual situation. That the lead guy in the community, grew out of being one of the community beneficiaries of the program. If I
Steve,
could say
before
it
you
that
answer,
way.
Brian, I want to add there because Steve, so often people assume that the people who are running the authority know nothing about it, have no connection to it, can't relate, and all that kind of stuff. And here again, as you said, Steve, is somebody who has a longer history there than most of the people who probably live there now. I mean, like, you've been there for a very long time, and it could go without notice that you were raised there.
Hmm. That's for sure. And Steve, I have made it my point whenever I've spoken with resident associations or in groups in various developments throughout the county to make it my point to make it known to them that I grew up in public housing. That does somewhat is an icebreaker. It kind of like causes them to look at me maybe in a different light. Maybe hopefully that they would see me as being one who maybe understands things more so than maybe others. Not saying that others that did not grow up in public housing don't understand. I'm not saying that, but sometimes people just say, "Hey, you grew up in a development, so you understand what things are like." But so I have made it my point, and it's somewhat interesting in the fact that the Crestview Village development has had a very active residents association for many years, only because of the fact that there was an individual that was very committed to that resident association. So I had the good fortune of being asked to attend the resident association meetings almost on a quarterly basis, if not more frequent than that. So I would actually go joyfully back to the development and actually the community room that I used to run around in when I was a child. So so it was always a joy to be there and speak with the residents when they had their resident association meetings and be invited there to speak and talk about issues of concerns that they had as residents at that time. But so it is an interesting dynamic, but the empathy and the compassion that we should have in our industry, and we do have in our industry, and that's one thing that, if I may say, as being the president of PARA, I've come to know individuals like Steve and others in our profession, and I am totally amazed at what housing authorities are doing across this Commonwealth. How they have reached out to their residents in various unique ways, and it just I'm very humbled to be a president of an organization. I know that there are so many committed individuals working as hard as they possibly can to try to make things as best they can for the residents that they serve. And I was just at a conference, the Pennsylvania Association of Housing Management Agencies, on this past Friday, and I spoke there, and I was just trying to highlight that we're servants. We serve the individuals that reside in our developments. We're to be, if anything, if we're going to show things the best way we can, it's to be a servant leader, to actually be one that's always. I always strive to have an open door policy. I always want to be open and make people aware that I'm approachable. And it's not like I'm an ivory tower and no one can come and express to me whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. I want people to know that I can be approachable. But so that's part of the issue too with me sitting in this chair now as the executive director.
Before you go too far away from growing up there, anybody ever ask you to prove it by showing some pictures from when you were little? Can you prove it? Show me some pictures.
Oh yeah, I can prove it. I can prove it.
What would you show them?
Oh boy, I would show them. Growing up,
Photoshop, Brian. You ever heard of Photoshop?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we want to make sure that these are credible pictures that we show.
Oh, they're credible pictures. My parents, my father would always take pictures, around the holidays, but or pictures of us standing outside it was mainly in our development, it's row housing, so you would have an entrance door that would go into the living room side, and then opposite another entrance door that would go into the kitchen, and mainly all of our photos were more so on the kitchen side of the building than the living room side. But the living room side door would actually go out into a little playground area. That was an asphalt covered playground area, but the kitchen side was way the row was situated. We were right adjacent to a hillside, and so I would run out of the kitchen door and just run up and play around in the hills surrounding the development. But if you all could remember what row housing looked like way back in the 40s and 50s, it was asbestos type of siding, maybe on the second floor level, brick on the lower level, flat roofs. And I was known to break some asbestos siding because of throwing my ball a little bit too high and missing the mark on the lower level. And so kind of got in trouble a couple of times doing that. But and I won't say what we tried to do when we would shimmy up the television antennas to get up onto the flat roof. That was always a challenge in our developments when you were a kid. Are you man enough to shimmy up a telephone, TV antenna back then?
We're sure you were man enough. I know Butch has challenged you to produce photos, but really, if someone's from the neighborhood, it just comes out in the way they talk. And
right.
people from the neighborhood, they know.